Hey guys, so as you probably know, when you go to a pet store to buy crickets, they come in two sizes, large and small most of the time, and sometimes there's also medium crickets. But most of the time, the large ones are like adults, like the one in this picture, with wings and chirping, and the small ones are very, very small, like juveniles, and they don't chirp at all, and even the largest ones are tiny, and basically they're good for any size leopard gecko, like even a baby would be able to eat them. So a question commonly asked is, when should I transfer my leopard gecko from eating these small ones here to eating large crickets? Now, there's a lot of conflicting information about this on the internet. Like, some people say around 7 to 8 inches long is when you should start feeding large crickets, but I find that even at around 7 to 8 inches long, usually their heads are still too small and there's a chance of them choking on the cricket. Now, my leopard gecko is 8 inches long, and this is the largest size of cricket that I feed him. So that's around medium. It's one of the smallest of the large. And what I do is I go to PetSmart, I buy the largest crickets, and then out of these large ones, I feed the small ones to him, like whole, and I cut the larger ones in half. As you can see, even though I fed the smallest of the largest, there's still like this bulge in his mouth. And while in the wild, I see leopard geckos eat, huge insects, and other lizards too. They eat like insects that are way bigger than their whole mouths. I have heard that in captivity there's a chance they'll choke on these, and it's best to feed them only like insects that'll fit in the space between their eyes. So for the largest crickets, what I do is I cut them in half. Now, I know this might seem a little bit cruel for some people, and I guess it is in some way, but again, they're getting eaten anyways, and it's not like they're frozen and then just dropped in while they're dead. They are being thrown in there alive usually, and leopard geckos are insectivores. They eat live insects, and so I guess the whole aspect of feeding them is cruel, and it doesn't really matter whether you cut them in half or not. And also, insects can actually feel pain. Like, there have been a lot of studies done on this, and the general consensus is that they don't feel pain. So I guess that makes them a good feeder in some way. But yeah, anyways, so I just quickly cut them in half with scissors, and then my leopard gecko usually does eat them. Now, if your gecko doesn't eat any food that isn't moving, what you can do is simulate movement with like tweezers or your hand. Just flick them around, and usually my leopard gecko will fall for that and think it's movement. Now, you might be wondering, why don't you just buy small crickets or medium crickets? Well, the thing is, when you have a juvenile leopard gecko around 8-7 inches, then if you're feeding small crickets, you can go through like 10 of them a day, even more, just because they're so small and they're growing at a really rapid pace, and they're also so big already. And medium crickets are actually optimal for leopard geckos of this size, but they're hard to find and not many pet stores carry them. So my solution is simply to buy large ones and cut them in half. Now, for deciding when to start cutting the crickets, like at what size, usually if the width of the cricket is not larger than the width between the eyes of your gecko, then it's fine. However, if your gecko eats a cricket and starts exhibiting behavior where it twists its neck, like in a U shape, and just, twists its neck to try and force the food down its throat, then, well, it is kind of normal behavior. It's usually, I don't consider it healthy, and that's the point where I start cutting crickets of the same size into half to help him swallow. Now, if you're a long-time follower of this channel, you know that at first I thought Godzilla was a male, but then later on, when Godzilla reached around 7 to 8 inches, then I saw that Godzilla was probably a female, because Godzilla hadn't developed any of the pores or the bulge yet near the base of the tail. However, I checked recently again, and it seems like Godzilla is a male after all, because the bulge at the base of the tail is really apparent now. There are still no pores, but like the bulge is just very apparent, and I don't see that in females leopard geckos ever. So yeah, I believe Godzilla is a male, and my first hunch was right. So yeah, Godzilla is a he. Thank you guys for watching. Now, if you found this video helpful, useful, entertaining, then hopefully you'll subscribe and leave a like down below. And if you have any feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. So yeah, to conclude this video, basically feeding small crickets to your large juvenile leopard gecko it just takes a long time, and they need to consume a lot, so you'll need to spend a lot more money to get the crickets. And feeding the large ones can lead to throat problems and like choking. So my solution is simply to cut all the ones that are too large into half, and to simulate movement with tweezers or like your hand, so that your leopard gecko will still eat them. Bye guys!